Hello my friends, this is David C. Drake, former QA tester for Breath of the Wild. And today is a special day for Zelda fans, because as I'm recording this, it is March 28th, 2023, and earlier this morning we got to see our first significant glimpse of this game's sequel, Tears of the Kingdom. So that was very exciting, and got me in the mood to play a bit more of this game today, and also to make my first video about this game. So I figured what better way to do that than to return to the beginning, so to speak. Back to the Great Plateau, back even to the Shrine of Resurrection. For my plan today is to complete the final trial of a special quest called the Champion's Ballad. In a realm of memory, you defeated the powerful phantom Ganons of the 4 divine beasts. You have also completed the 4 trials inscribed on the stone monument. But this trial is far from over. The door to the final trial in the Shrine of Resurrection has opened. Return there once more. This is part of DLC, which I never had a chance to test back when I was a QA tester for this game. I only tested the base game, so I've enjoyed experiencing some parts of the DLC over the last year or so, and this part of this quest I've never done before, I've never even seen it before, so I don't know exactly what to expect, and I'm pretty excited about that. So I look forward to seeing what challenges await, and as I go through that, I will discuss some of the things I love about this game, and, share a little bit about what it was like to be a QA tester for it. Obviously, there are certain things I can't share, and yes, if there are any Nintendo lawyers listening, don't worry, I will not share anything that I shouldn't. I will keep it very safe. But yeah, there are certain aspects of being a game tester that are absolutely wonderful, especially for a game like this. It was just a dream come true to play any role in the development of this game, even if it was just the humble role of a QA tester. And I'll get into that later. For now, let's initiate this final trial. To the brave soul who wishes to master a divine beast, you have done well to return to this place of beginnings. You have overcome many challenges thus far. Now allow me to bestow upon you one final trial. Return the Sheikah slate to the terminal you first obtained it from. Do so, and the final passageway will reveal itself. Alright. Well, let's have a little chat with this Korok first, of course. Tweehy indeed. And let's see what this has to say. It has fulfilled its duty, it slumbers peacefully. Okay. Descending. Please beware of tremors. So like I said, I don't know exactly what to expect here. Overall, I very much like the design of this game. I know some people were a bit disappointed by the relative lack of what might be called traditional Zelda dungeons. But overall, I very much like the design of the shrines and various other locations, the divine beasts and so forth. And this looks wonderful. There should be some good, challenging puzzles here. Welcome, hero. You have overcome many trials to reach me. Now it is time to face the final trial. This trial is a complex labyrinth. To start, you will need a map. You may obtain map information from the guidance stone. Alright. Well. As with basically the entirety of this game, this place is gorgeous. It does seem that we are in a underground space of some kind, as you would expect, as we were going down in that sort of elevator. It seems as though we were getting sunlight, but now that I'm looking at it more closely, it's not 100% clear whether this is meant to be sunlight or that there's just some kind of, glowing source of light there in the rock ceiling of this space. So, a bit mysterious, but hey, pretty cool. And let's go ahead and get into some proper armor. I'm wearing the, what is it called? Cap of the hero, tunic of the hero, trousers of the hero. These were provided by an amiibo I have of the classic Link from the original Legend of Zelda. But let's get our armor up by wearing some amber earrings, champion's tunic, Hylian trousers, sure. For now, that'll be good. I have been a fan of the Zelda series from its very beginning. I had the good fortune of growing up in the 80s and 90s. Whoops! So I was able to enjoy the original Legend of Zelda and the Legend of Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, back around the time when they first came out. I absolutely love those games, especially Zelda 2. That was my favorite for a long time. But I've loved all the major Zelda games, and this one is no exception. In fact, if anything, this may be a strong contender for my favorite Zelda game of all time at this point. It doesn't really matter that much. I mean, how we rank these things doesn't necessarily matter. In any case, let's get this map data. I love this idea of data transfer via liquid droplet. Divine Beast controls have been enabled. Looks like we have some kind of rotation controls available. This should be interesting. So anyway, as I said, this is a strong contender for perhaps being my favorite Zelda game so far, and that puts it up there close to the top of my favorite games of all time. I still might consider The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind to be my absolute all-time favorite game, but this one is pretty high up there on that list as well. Let's check out this space here. And before we go much farther, let's see what these controls do. Change rotation direction. Okay. Ooh. Cool, cool. Some of my other favorite Zelda games, besides Zelda 2 from way back in the day, would include, the original Legend of Zelda, also A Link to the Past, certainly Ocarina of Time, and really all the major Zelda games are just absolutely fantastic examples of great game design overall. I mean, all of them do have some minor flaws here and there, as does Breath of the Wild, but are they fantastic games overall? Yes, absolutely. Regarding the puzzle design in this game, whether it's in the shrines or in the Divine Beasts, I'm really pretty impressed with it overall. There are some puzzles that are rather simple, of course, but there are others that do provide an appropriate challenge for older gamers such as myself, and I appreciate that. This is definitely a game that is very much aesthetically pleasing, but also intellectually stimulating at times, and just all around a great experience, especially for people like myself who love to explore. There we go. Nice. I love to go on walks and hikes in random places, whether natural or urban, So open world exploration games really appeal to me. That's why The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind is my favorite game of all time, and I love all the major Elder Scrolls and Fallout games and other fantastic open world games. Many of the Legend of Zelda games can arguably be considered open world games, but Breath of the Wild in particular is especially typical of what we consider a modern open world game, more so than any Zelda game that came before. And I for one welcome that. There are pros and cons that go along with any game design choice, just like everything in life, you know? There's no such thing as a perfect anything, really. There's always pros and cons to any choice that one might make. So, of course, some of the design elements in this game may or may not appeal to people to varying degrees based on their personal tastes and so forth. And there were some compromises that had to be made along the way, as in the development of any game. Oh, interesting. Okay. So tell me down in the comments below, what are your thoughts and opinions and feelings about this fantastic game? You know, do you absolutely love it like I do? How do you feel it compares to other Zelda games and other games in general that are of this sort, whether they be action-adventure, open world, RPG, you know, whatever genre or genres they may be part of? Well, hold on. So how do we get those two? Aha, maybe I should have waited a bit. Let's get it rotating the other way. Anyway, as we're waiting for me to make progress here, I might as well go ahead and discuss what it was like to be a QA tester for this game. As I mentioned earlier, for me it was absolutely a dream come true. Being a QA tester is not always a glamorous role. It's one of the more humble roles in game development, but it can be a lot of fun. Deactivating one lock of the door. Nice. 3 terminals remaining. Okay. Being a QA tester is not always fun, but working on a game like this is, in my opinion, an absolutely wonderful experience. I never got tired of testing this game. I think there were some people on my team who did sometimes get tired of it. I found that a bit surprising. For me, it was just an absolute dream come true, wonderful experience from beginning to end. Other than, I mean, of course, there were some of the usual annoyances that sometimes come with work, such as occasionally having to deal with perhaps an annoying coworker or whatnot. And especially, I do have to say, if I'm being honest, when you're working in a field like game testing, you know, you will get some folks who are a bit low on social skills, shall we say. So that can be a minor challenge, but to me that wasn't too big of a deal. I should say that actually the vast majority of my coworkers as a QA tester at Nintendo were wonderful people. I loved working with them. Some of them I've kept in contact with. Some of them became really, truly good friends. And just great people, wonderful people. So shout out to all of you. Shout out to anyone who might happen to be watching this, who I worked with. And hope you're all doing well. For this game, we had a huge team of testers. It was a fascinating experience. We got to use some new software and hardware tools that I hadn't used before. And being able to find interesting little bugs of various kinds during the early stages was a lot of fun. Now, I probably can't talk about too much of that in detail, but again, just in general terms, there were, of course, in the early stages, there were many things that just weren't quite complete yet. That's also part of what's fun about being a game tester, is you get to experience these games in an incomplete state, and I actually enjoyed that. like when we first started, there were whole areas that that graphically were basically just they were just all the color green, just like a big green curtain, and we were told to expect that and not to report that as a bug because those were areas that just weren't finished yet. And there were areas of the game that we could kind of go to that later became inaccessible, so that was kind of an interesting experience, such as deep into the canyons along the northern borders of the game world. Whoa! Whoops! We were sometimes privy to privileged information about the early design discussions surrounding this game, only to a limited extent. I mean, I'm sure there are lots and lots of secrets that I don't know, and the few that I do know, some of them I was told specifically, like, never tell anyone this. And that is a promise that I intend to honor. So there are certain things that I will never speak about. I just want to say that I have a lot of respect for the creative minds behind the design of this game and the many hard workers, programmers, artists, and so forth who made this game a reality. And I also have just tons of respect for all the QA testers, and QA testers deserve more respect in the game development industry. And I definitely applaud those efforts some folks have made to unionize and get collective bargaining available, to be able to get more the pay that they deserve as testers. Because everyone should be fairly compensated for their time and treated with respect. There's no doubt about that. And sadly, that's not always the case in all areas of work, you know. And even where people are well paid, they're sometimes still not treated with the respect they deserve. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but I did want to make that brief comment that I do firmly support efforts by anyone in any industry to organize with your fellow workers, get collective bargaining rights, improve your situation. And I wish I would have done more of that. But like many people, I was in a situation where at that time I felt like I couldn't take any risks. And unfortunately, that's a fact that sometimes employers and corporations exploit. You know, they know that workers are often going to feel desperate to just kind of maintain whatever status quo they currently have and not risk it just to make things better. But really, sometimes you should. If you're able to at all, you should take that risk to try to make things better for yourself and your fellow workers. And that's a challenge that will be ongoing in many industries, and certainly including the video game industry for some time now. Anyway, one of the great things about testing this game was that we were given a lot of freedom most of the time to just kind of go wherever we wanted, do whatever we wanted. I mean, sometimes we were given specific instructions, and there were different teams that were basically aimed toward different tasks, focusing on different areas of the game, different aspects. But to a large extent, we were often at least relatively free to play as we wanted, because they wanted us to just creatively find as many interesting quirks and bugs as we could find. We were even given the opportunity to provide some design feedback, which is a rare thing. Usually companies don't bother to ask for feedback from QA testers. But they did in our case, and they did implement some of the changes that we recommended. I'm not going to get into the specifics there, but that was a neat experience. Just to be able to have dialogue with the developers over in Kyoto, Japan, that in and of itself was wonderful. Like whenever we wrote bug reports or design feedback or sent questions to them, all those communications had to be translated into Japanese, and so we had a dedicated team of translators who would very quickly handle that for us and then translate things back into English when we got responses. And so there was a slight language barrier there, of course, in terms of the communication we had with the teams in Japan, but that really was not a major obstacle, and it was wonderful to have extensive communication with them. in various forms. That was relatively straightforward, but a fun little puzzle. Deactivating one more lock. I love the art design, every aspect of this game. You know, the symbols, the writing, the different sort of cultural aspects of the various cultures in this game. I think the design around that is fantastic. And I like the overall art style, you know, this kind of cell shading, I think it's called. It's just beautiful. It has, of course, often been remarked, at least early on, that this game, in both visuals and music design and so forth, is somewhat reminiscent of a Studio Ghibli film. That's one of the things I love about it. I love that occasional falling sand. The handling of light effects in this game is fantastic. Very cool. I'm sure there are some people out there for whom this isn't their cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. You know, I don't expect there to be pretty much anything in this world that everybody loves. But I think most people can find things they love about this game. I mean, it really is just a gorgeous game, and just a fun world to explore and have all kinds of different adventures in, especially out in the open world. But I do also love places like this. Divine beasts, as they're called. Speaking of that terminology, the issue of translation is, of course, always an interesting one in game development. I love the flurry rush. Some people might think it gets old after a while. I do not. I don't know why, I just absolutely love the whole bullet time thing. This is, of course, a game where elements are first conceptualized in the Japanese language for the most part, and only later translated into English and other languages. So that's always an interesting process. I got a tiny bit of special insight into that during my time as a tester. Not too much, of course. I mean, obviously I wasn't directly involved in any of the translation process, but I did get to see what it was like to play the game with early placeholder translations that were very basic, very simple, you know, almost, in some cases, maybe even almost like just Google Translate type of translations. And then later, we got more official translations gradually put in. We did have to help with confirming all the text in the game and check for any bugs, flaws, cultural issues, any issues whatsoever related to text, language, UI in general. Well, and not only UI, but also, for that matter, the voice work. You know, I was occasionally tasked to play the game in other languages, such as German or Russian or whatever else. Even though I didn't know those languages, we still wanted to make sure that things basically sounded all right and seemed to be working as intended. Anyway, it was fun to see how official translations, how they compared to some of the early, more basic translations. And that's also something that I probably shouldn't get into too much detail about. But it was a neat thing to see as the final stages of development proceeded for the English language version of the game. And it was fun to be part of discussions about what aspects of the language used in the game and other aspects of the design, how they may or may not be deemed offensive or or whatever else, to various people in the United States and other parts of the world. And those were always interesting conversations to be part of, because things like that really do matter, by the way. I don't know if any of you are rolling your eyes a little bit, but the fact is, when you're developing a major game that you want to have people playing all throughout the world, you do, of course, have to consider issues of a cultural nature. And that includes names or words or phrases that could potentially be offensive in different languages, situations in the game that could be viewed very differently by people from different cultures. These things are important. The extent to which they may or may not matter will, of course, vary significantly from one situation, one context to another. And there is room for a lot of different opinions about all kinds of issues, but there are certain things where, of course, it makes sense to strive not to offend too many people. We all have our different sensibilities, our different things that may or may not bother us to varying degrees. And some of them matter more than others, and the predominant values in any given society change over time, and that's okay. In fact, oftentimes that's a good thing. I do believe that there is real social and cultural progress that's not always, but often taking place in most societies most of the time. Anyway, let's drop that topic for now and consider what we want to do here. Well, one thing that surprised me a bit, and it might surprise you, is that when working as a tester for any game, you may or may not be privy to design documents and other documents relevant to that game. It varies from company to company, and it seemed like, in my experience, this may not be universally the case, so take this with a grain of salt, but in most of my experience in my limited time working at Nintendo of America in Redmond, Washington, we were not given design documents or things to reference to be able to confirm whether or not something was, in fact, intended design. They expected us to just decide on our own whether we considered something to definitely be a bug or design flaw and to report it or not. So that has its own pros and cons. To be completely honest, there were times when that kind of annoyed me a little bit, because especially in an enormous game like this one, a complicated game, a game that is not only an open world game, but also kind of an immersive sim. The type of game where you have a lot of emergent gameplay from the interactions between lots of different game objects and lots of different powers and abilities, such as all these Sheikah Slate powers. There's so much emergent gameplay and emergent factors that can come into play in this game that I found it a little bit surprising that we were never given access to, or at least as a general rule, we were not generally given access to official information about, for example, early on we were not given maps of where all the Korok seeds were or anything like that. Now later on they might have given us some maps for certain specific things, or given some detailed information about specific things if there were areas they wanted us to focus heavily on for a little while, such as Korok seed hunting. There was a little phase where we were all heavily focused on that for, I don't remember how long, maybe just a day or two. But anyway, the positive aspect of that is that, of course, they're allowing the QA testers to approach the game basically more or less the same way that all players will when they first play the game, which is just to take the experience at face value and see what happens. And if something doesn't feel like a bug, well, then it's probably not a bug. If it does feel like a bug, well then of course we would report it. And in rare cases, they might come back and say, oh, well, I can see why you might have thought this was a bug, but actually it was intended design, or it's considered acceptable that this potential workaround exists. that was something interesting in particular, because as you know, there are often many different ways to do any given thing in this game. And they consider that to be very much a positive, and I agree. That's not a flaw, generally speaking. Now, there might be rare cases where they do want to prevent some specific way of doing something, but for the most part, that was not the attitude they had. One of the fun things about a game like this, in my opinion, is the fact that, different things will occur to different people at different rates, right? There are so many different ways to approach any particular obstacle, challenge, whether it be a puzzle or an enemy to defeat. This game encourages you to approach it from different perspectives, to try to think of different tools you could use to help accomplish something that you want done. It might help, and even if it doesn't, it's kind of hilarious to try to bring humongous objects in places where they don't belong. So, can I just move this thing? Yes. And it's possible I could even just hit that with a hammer. So we have the ball. What do we do now? Fascinating. No surprises here, I'm guessing. It is interesting that in this Zelda game, Link cannot dive down into the water. There is no downward water exploration. That is, I suppose, a bit unfortunate. That could be regarded as a minor flaw. Third lock deactivated. Only one terminal remaining. So, whoops. Didn't mean to go quite that far. By the way, on rare occasions, I am now dealing with a little bit of Joy-Con drift in my left Joy-Con. I was blissfully free of Joy-Con drift issues for years, but in recent months, it has started happening a little bit now and then in my left Joy-Con, so that might occasionally cause minor issues for me, but it's rare enough that I haven't bothered looking into getting it repaired or replaced yet. It's a minor misfortune associated with these controllers, but otherwise, as a general rule, I really love these controllers. And I've really grown accustomed to them. If I try to play these games with other controllers, it always feels slightly awkward to me. Oh my. Hello there. Now hopefully... Oh, come on. Hi there. Yes, look right at me, please. I love all the different animations in this game. I mean, there's just so much excellent work that went into this. Let's take you back where you belong. Though this was fun while it lasted. Hello there. Well, I do not expect this to do anything, but I can't help myself. Korok Leaf. Do what you can. Nope, nothing. What about stasis and a hammer? Not hitting it. You can't be hit, it seems. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Now we have some wind going. Well, I'm trying to think what else I could say in general terms about my experience as a QA tester for this game. If you have any specific questions for me, please do write them in the comments down below. And I will respond as best I can, within the limits of what I feel I can talk about. Final lock deactivated. All terminal locks have been deactivated. You can now access the deepest area. I wonder what those runes say. And we can now shift this forward. There we go. I love these monks. Is Link ready for his final trial in this quest? Let's hope so. You have proven to possess the power of a true hero. In the name of the goddess Hylia. Ooh. Oh, wow. I offer this final trial. Now that was interesting. let us begin. Ha. It is on. The Divine Trial. Monk Maz Koshia. Yeah, that's right. Okay, you're pretty good. I'll give you that. Okay, Master Sword ran out of energy. And maybe we should armor up a little bit more. Yeah, let's go with the Barbarian set. Dyed in white, as is my preference. I like that. Uh-oh. That's not good. Whoa. Now, which one of you is real? There you are. I really like the camera aspect of this game. Maybe because I enjoy taking pictures in real life too, but you know, being an amateur photographer in this world as well is a fun experience sometimes. Wow. That's right. Okay, that's impressive. There you go. Right in the groin. Now he's trying to step on me. Whoa. Throwing monks at me. Whoa. No more little monks, please. Dang it. Oh, the timing there. How do you like that? Me biting at your ankles. There we go. Right in the groin. Right in the butt. Gotcha. You face that challenge with great courage. You have erased all doubt from my mind. You are a true hero. As such, you are destined to take hold of this ancient masterpiece. Yes, let's download all that data, and even that material, apparently. Very mysterious, this Sheikah technology. Mysterious and powerful. Master Cycle 0. Fantastic. Oh, that is wonderful. That which you have obtained is a masterpiece of innovation, created for the one true hero. Hero of Hyrule, may the goddess smile upon you. Kass.
Hmm?
Oh, it's you.
Oh.
I can't put my feather on it, but I get the feeling you're even more accomplished than you were when last we met. I happen to have the perfect song for someone as esteemed as you. I would love to sing it for you. My teacher's unfinished song, the one I told you about.
Oh.
I finally completed the key verses.
Hmm.
This lofty location is the perfect stage to sing this special song. It takes place 100 years ago at Hyrule Castle. Yes, the very castle you can still see over yonder. It's about the magnificent inauguration of the chosen champions. If you would, please listen to this special song. The Champion's Ballad.
Welcome, warriors. I'd like to thank you for joining me here today, and for your bravery in accepting this fateful task. I officially appoint you Hyrule's champions, and bestow upon you this sacred garb. That blue is a symbol of the royal family, one that has been passed down for countless generations. Those garments you now wear were all crafted by my daughter, Zelda. Zelda, I trust you with the task only a daughter of the royal family can fulfill. Lead our champions, princess, and together, protect our kingdom from the threat of Calamity Ganon.
I tell you, those formal shindigs really take it out of me.
This is the Sheikah slate, eh?
It is. Apparently, there are more uses for it than we originally thought. Sadly, we've yet to decipher all of its secrets.
The princess showed me something strange recently. Somehow it can create true-to-life images.
Wow. I would love to see it. Princess? May I ask a special favor of you?
All right, this spot should work nicely. Keep your eyes on the Sheikah slate, everyone. Daruk, can you crouch down a bit? You're as big as Death Mountain.
Huh? Oh.
What's with the glum face, princess? Give me a big smile.
Huh?
Rivali, move your tail closer to the group.
Fine.
Mifa, you look so tense. Deep breaths, okay?
Right.
Stay just like that. Here we go. Smile. Click, snap.
Oh, nice. That is beautiful. After this ceremony, they would all forever be known as champions. My teacher always advised me to write songs that transport the listener to the moment in time you're singing of. Now, I finally feel I understand what he meant, and the true power of music. By the way, I found this when I was looking through my teacher's notes. I was thinking, you should be the one to keep it. Your courageous heart reminds me of the indomitable spirit of the champions. I know you'll treasure it. Picture of the champions. Beautiful. A final thought. May the souls of the champions who watch over Hyrule rest in peace.
Link. 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 I have watched your journey, every step. You have overcome every challenge with great courage. With the power that you have attained, I am certain you can defeat Calamity Ganon. Truly.
And that does it. We have completed the Champion's Ballad quest. And this seems like a beautiful spot to end my video. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you gained something from it. Please do leave some comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to see more, and consider supporting all my creative endeavors, including my game development projects, by going to patreon.com/thedrake. Do you have any more words for me? I dearly hope we meet again someday. As for the souls of the champions watching over Hyrule, may they finally rest in peace. Agreed. Oh yeah, one more thing. I should try out my new toy.